This week, we're in Ireland, where we'll be staying at the cheapest Hilton hotel we could find before moving to the most expensive and luxurious Hilton in the country, where rooms can cost more than $5,000 per night. Beyond showing you what you can expect from each, we'll break down the numbers to show you how we booked all of this using points, and hopefully help you decide if the more luxurious option is worth the extra points on your next adventure. All right, first up, the cheapest Hilton hotel here in Dublin, the Hampton Inn Suites. Let's go check in. Okay, first impressions, this is actually a little bit nicer than I wanted it to be because we're supposed to be comparing the cheapest option to the most expensive option, and this is supposed to be the cheaper one, but we're starting off pretty strong. It's definitely a smaller room, but it's nice.
Also, the artwork in here is a vibe. We got records, we got Frida Kahlo. I mean, what else could you ask for?
All good vibes.
Check-in process was fine, the room is pretty great, the lobby's really nice, breakfast is included, so far, really nothing to complain. So before we break down the numbers on this first property, let's quickly clarify a few things. My goal is to have an apples-to-apples comparison at least as much as possible. So I selected 2 hotels from the same brand, in the same city, around the same dates, so that we can truly see what some extra points get you, and if more luxurious properties are worth it in general. Are there cheaper properties in Ireland than the one we're currently staying at? Absolutely, and there are certainly ones that are more expensive than the Conrad that we're gonna head to next. But on the whole, Hampton Inn Suites is considered one of Hilton's lower end brands, while Conrad is one of their more luxurious and expensive properties. All right, now that we've laid out our ground rules, the Hampton Inn Suites, where we're currently staying, came out to just shy of 600 euros for our 2-night stay, or $638 US, which for the property that's supposed to be the cheaper option in today's video is still pretty expensive. But again, this is the cheapest award booking in this city, and just wait until you see the cash price of the next property. So since my soul is just incompatible with paying cash for any travel booking, I redeemed 100,000 Hilton points for our 2-night stay here. And before we do the math on that, let me remind you that Hilton points can be transferred from American Express at a 1-to-2 ratio, meaning if you transfer 1,000 American Express points, that would become 2,000 Hilton Honors points. So if we wanted to equate this to a booking with other transferable credit card points, then really this particular hotel was 25,000 transferable credit card points per night, or 50,000 points for our 2-night stay. So if we take our cash price of $638 and divide it by the number of points we transferred, which was 50,000, that gives us a redemption value of 1.27 cents per point, which isn't that great, but honestly, for a Hilton property, that's actually pretty good. All right, but I think that's enough math. Let's go check out the breakfast situation, because that will definitely influence my very vague and non-specific rating. Breakfast situation is pretty solid, actually, and it's free. So I think it was pretty obvious based on my reaction to this room, but this particular hotel is actually a lot nicer than I was expecting. Maybe I just had low expectations because there was actually a Hampton Inn in my hometown, and I always just assumed it was a sketchy rundown hotel. And while the room is definitely pretty small, it's convenient, it's comfortable, and it saves me 40,000 Hilton points, so hopefully the Conrad Hilton that we're heading to next is a lot nicer. But I'm gonna go explore the rest of this beautiful country before eventually finding my way back to Dublin, where I'll catch up with you, where we'll be staying at the most expensive Hilton property in all of Ireland. Welcome back to Dublin. Welcome back to Dublin? Welcome to Dublin. We already said welcome to Dublin. Tonight we'll be staying at the most expensive Hilton property in Ireland, where rooms can cost over $5,000 per night. And while we definitely won't be staying in that room, needless to say, we're pretty excited, so let's go check it out. All right, so initial gut reaction to the more luxurious property. Honestly, it's just okay. Now, you're never gonna hear me complain about a wonderful and comfortable hotel room like this, especially when it was free, since I paid for it with points. But since we are comparing it to a cheaper option in this video, there's some things that cheaper property had that this property just doesn't. But anyway, those are my initial thoughts, but let's break down the numbers on this room. All right, so it is worth pointing out that we are here during peak season, which is obviously going to influence pricing for cash and point bookings. And remember that Hilton uses what's called dynamic award pricing, where the price per night can fluctuate based on a ton of variables. We're also Hilton Gold members thanks to our Hilton Surpass credit card, so they did upgrade us at check-in, although sometimes I think they just tell you that to make you feel better.
You're just special.
And breakfast is also included at this property, but if we were not Hilton Gold members, then it would not be included, unlike the last property that we stayed at, where any guest gets breakfast for free. Anyway, this is not a Hilton specific video, so if you want to learn everything you need to know about Hilton specifically, I'll reference you to this video. But let me show you how we booked this incredible room using points, and see if it was worth the extra points for a more luxurious experience. Now, I'll be honest from the start, I'm not sure if this is a King Deluxe or Premier or Superior or what the heck the difference is between any of those, but most of those mid-range rooms at this particular property go for about $1,500 per night this time of year, which honestly, after being in this hotel, is kind of a scam.
It's a scam, and I refuse to be scammed.
With that being said, there are a ton of cheaper options during off-peak months, but because of that dynamic pricing model that I mentioned earlier, we ended up paying 140,000 Hilton points for our 2-night stay, or 70,000 points per night. And remember that if we convert those to regular transferable credit card points, those 70,000 points would actually be 35,000 American Express points per night, because of that 1-to-2 transfer ratio that we talked about earlier. So $1,500 per night divided by 35,000 transferable credit card points needed per night gives us a redemption value of 4.2 cents per point, which might be the highest redemption value that I've ever had at a Hilton property. But as always, take those redemption values with a grain of salt because 1, miles and points are not all about the redemption value, and 2, those numbers can be, and very much are in this case, heavily influenced by peak pricing and a lot of other variables. But regardless, the redemption value on this property was much better, but when it all shakes out, this was only 20,000 extra Hilton points per night compared to the previous property, with that one being 50,000 points per night and this one being 70,000 points per night. So in a case like this, where honestly there isn't that big of a difference in terms of the points required per night, then maybe the upgrade is worth it. But if I had to give you my gut feeling based on this experience and past experiences, as far as whether or not luxury properties are worth the extra points, most of the time, in my opinion, the answer is no. The big exception to that is if you're booking a luxury property that is some kind of bucket list or once-in-a-lifetime experience. For example, I just stayed at a Destination by Hyatt property in Scotland that was literally a 900-year-old castle, and in that case, the property itself was the experience. So burning extra points for a once-in-a-lifetime memory is absolutely worth it in a case like that. There have been other times where I burned a free night award or travel credits on other unique accommodations that again couldn't be had anywhere else. But when it comes to just needing a place to lay your head at night and recharge before going out to explore a city the next day, in my experience at least, any major hotel brand, including Hilton, Hyatt, Marriott, and IHG, are for the most part going to give you a consistent and reliable experience that may not be the flashiest thing in the world, but is perfectly adequate if you're just looking for a place to sleep and recharge. There have been so many times where I booked a Category 1 Hyatt property, for example, only to be pleasantly surprised with how shockingly nice that property ended up being, despite the fact that Category 1 is supposed to be their cheapest offering. And I think the experience that we all just saw with these Hilton properties reflects that, because there's some aspects of the cheaper property that I actually prefer over this more luxurious brand. But again, on the other hand, if I was going to a Hyatt or Hilton all-inclusive property, then I might shell out some extra points because in those cases, the property is the experience. But otherwise, I just save your points and put them towards a once-in-a-lifetime flight in business or first class, or some kind of unique accommodation that you can't get anywhere else. But that's just the opinion of some random guy on the internet. So let me know what you think of this debate down in the comment section. And if you want to earn some more Hilton points, then a link to our top Hilton cards page down in the description box below, which also helps support Daily Drop, which our entire team really appreciates. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.